Back on because it's Monday, and this is the thing that happens on Mondays because I've got some news to share, some things to talk about. So obviously, uh, Satan is trying to do his thing, I guess, or it could just be that the software needed to be turned off and turned back on again. Don't know. Either way, hopefully this will hold up. Hopefully there's no crashes. Hopefully, hopefully there's no crashing of the Facebook feed because I think that's where we were having the problems. So I'm going to try to put this up as fast as possible, and then we can get right into business. So we're not going to go over Joseph tonight. We might do a little bit of review of it. Not going to go over Joseph or continue with Joseph's account tonight, but we might review it a little bit. I've got other things I wanted to discuss, and let's see if I can. That's not what I wanted to do. Da, 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 da. Share it, share it, share it, share it, share it. I got a viewer. Is it me? Maybe not. Boom. All right. Again, happy Monday, everybody. Welcome back. Sorry I couldn't be there Friday. I was taking a bit of a day off. Taking a little bit of a day off from streaming and relaxing a little bit. So, I've been enjoying doing this a lot, and I know that I'm still just getting started with this. I know that I am, I'm going to be learning and feeling a lot of these things out and learning about how I'm doing the streaming and how I can improve it in the future. But one of the things I wanted to improve or I wanted to add was a component of this stream that ties in with the biblical walkthrough and go back and kind of discuss some of the things that might seem like the word I used today when I was talking about was plot holes in the Bible. But really it's like it's parts of the Bible where there's not a whole lot of context to find out exactly what's going on, or a story kind of drops off and you want to know what's going on past it. This happens a few times, especially in the Old Testament. Things can just drop off at some point and we move on to the next account. Or their character will pop in unexpectedly. You don't necessarily know where he's coming from, or they might just drop out. You don't know. And again, the way I put this, I'm not a biblical scholar. I don't know all the things that are going on. What I wanted to do was bring people on who are a good resource for that, for folks who really have put in the time to study up and understand the outside factors, which I think is going to will give us a good multi-dimensional aspect to what we're doing. We'll do the read through and the reacts, but then go back and talk about things, and I can respond to things from the perspective of somebody who's really, for the most part, lived in the Bible and not really tied in outside sources to it to kind of expand my knowledge base. So I can be kind of that control group, but at the same time bringing someone in that can expand upon things and bounce into ideas and each other's and thoughts. And you don't have to buy into everything, but you might find it very enlightening. I know I do when I have these discussions with folks that I know who are very who are much better educated in what's going on. So the thing that happened this past week was I was watching a stream. It's actually a friend of mine, or someone I consider a friend. I was watching his stream, and he had a guest on, and the guest was talking about his faith, which I wasn't expecting really, because he was on to talk about other things. But he was talking about his faith and mentioned apologetics, and there was a personality that I really felt was compelling and knowledgeable, and his delivery of things is very good. So I reached out to him, kind of nervously, because I'm still really new at this. I reached out to him over Twitter. I don't use Twitter that much, but or at all, really. I think I've got like a handful of tweets, and it's just really just trying to figure out what on earth I'm doing. But I reached out to him. He responded back, and we had a conversation, a long conversation actually, very fulfilling. And then we had I'd talked about kind of my goals on things, and we were just talking about having a God conversation during that time, and really, really hit it off. I think, and I think he is going to, and he has agreed. With some degree of excitement to come on to this show with me and collaborate a little bit and do these discussions where we're talking about things that are happening. He's going to give his perspective with the things that he's studied and read into. Like I said, very big into apologetics. Apologetics is something I have a great deal of respect for and belief in. I think that, and maybe I'll talk about it later on, it's something we don't do enough with our youth to prepare them for when they are hitting the points in life where they are just being exposed to society and don't really have an answer to in context other than this Bible verse that I learned and memorized taught me this. And then they go, oh well, do you know everything about that Bible verse? It's actually all BS. And the next thing you know, your kid's kind of on an island and not knowing what to do, especially when they're trying to carve a place for themselves out. They want to come up with their own ideas or come up with their own opinions in their own way. And if we don't give them the foundation to build their own opinions on what they've already learned, we're setting them up for failure, and we're setting them up for apostasy, and we're setting them up for a life led away from Christ. Now they can always come back, but why even risk it at that point? We care about our kids like God cares about us. So I'm a big believer in apologetics, but not just apologetics for kids, because that's really not what we're getting into in this particular subject, but apologetics in general. Like I said, we've got a couple of topics we're going to start that we've talked about just very briefly, but I kind of want to keep those conversations brief too, because I want to save all that good meat of the conversation for when we have those discussions on the stream. But we've got a couple of topics that he's very interested in that happen at the beginning of the Bible, and that's how I kind of want to do it. I want to do the discussions as kind of as we're hitting them in the walkthrough, and we've got some catching up to do. So a couple of things we're going to talk about Noah, and I think I wanted to expand that in from Adam and Eve, the increase in the sharp increase of population that happens from Genesis, from Adam and Eve coming out of the Garden of Eden. We get a lot of people in the mix very fast happening. Where does that come from? Again, there's several different approaches. Everybody's got an opinion, and the way I would like to handle this is for you to be a little bit open-minded in the fact that we're going to tackle a lot of these things, at least that we're tackling early on. These are points of knowledge where someone has done their homework and come up with what makes sense and seems truthful and believable and supported by evidence. And so they are going to give that opinion or give that take on what's going on. If you don't believe it, or if it doesn't seem viable to you, that's fine. Also, comment. Tell me what you're thinking in there, because I'm very interested. I'm going to be asking my own questions. I'm going to come into it with a very open mind because, again, this is a lot of the way that you should approach the Bible is when it comes to what's going on and what's happening. If you feel like you can interpret it in multiple ways as far as why somebody was doing something or what is actually happening in the account, think about it as if you look at it from different angles, does it change change what you take away from the Bible? Does it change God's intent from the Bible? It's like the creation story. If creation is metaphorical and God created it over eons, and put everything into play a certain way, versus if God created things in a legitimate 7 days, does that change where you're at right now? Does that change your faith? Does that change anything about what the fact that God created us, the fact that God has made a place for us in heaven? Does it change the fact that Christ came and died for our sins? No, it doesn't do any of that. But what you might hear when you do this is you might have your own opinion on something, but then you hear what somebody else is bringing to the table. It might change the way you read into things. It might just change your understanding. It might make more sense to you. When things start to make more sense to you, pieces start to come into play, and you start to understand things better. And to me personally, that brings me closer to God, and it does. And we can all do with being closer to God. So that's what I want to do with that. I think he is going to be a asset to a big asset to what I'm doing here, and hopefully it will give him some opportunities to talk about what he wants to talk about. I'm going to be very flexible with some of the things when he has another topic that he wants to discuss. If he's then that's how we're going to handle it. So I'm very excited with the prospect of that all coming together. Also, I wanted to talk about some of my screw-ups, or my big screw-up and my big issue today. But before we get into that, again, something we're going to work on, something that we're going to work on, something that we're going to put together, but it's not. It's just something I'm pretty excited about because, like I said, I kind of put myself out of my comfort zone to reach out to somebody, and I got a very good response out of it. So we can go from there, and so be on the lookout for that. I'll have more news as we start to hash things out and come up with a plan for things. So, what else to talk about tonight? You could talk about some of my problems. So, I am an argumentative person by nature in many ways, and sometimes I don't want to argue, and I feel just compelled to because it's just, I don't know, I feel like it's almost a reactionary thing that if I disagree with something or if I feel like my point of view is being attacked, I feel the automatic need to defend it. Sometimes I do that, and I really don't want to. I just feel like I'm being pulled along. I'm not in a good place when that happens to me. I get kind of irritable about it, and it's tiring and taxing to me, and I don't like doing it. At other times, especially when it's an idea or a concept that's going on, and somebody says something that I find obnoxious, ignorant, or or weird, or just flat out wrong. If it's about something that I care about or have some investment in, I can get into an argument very quickly, and I can get very sarcastic and very denigrating very fast. Now, enter the internet. It's easier to be personable. It's easier to be nice to somebody face to face when it's a conversation, it's a discussion, and you're talking things out, and it's a lot easier to just fire off a hot take or fire off a quick reply that's really biting when it's over the internet, because you type it up real fast and you feel real clever. Got him. And that's not always the best thing for me. And one of the things that I enjoyed when I left social media was the fact that I wasn't exposed to that as much anymore. I don't like social media. I don't like Facebook. I kind of like what I'm, I kind of like using YouTube, but I don't like everything about it. Twitter is awful. Instagram, TikTok, Snapchat, get rid of it all. Get rid of it all. I don't mind the instant messenger and texting, because I think it helps keep people close. But I find Facebook oftentimes is a show off. Let me put on this mask and tell everybody that all the great things that are happening in my life, or everything is terrible in my life, and it's drama central, and I don't really like it. So I was glad when I got away from it. I was immediately 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 felt better, and felt like, oh, good, I don't have to worry about this weighing me down and because I'm getting drawn into these arguments. However, if you're watching this from Facebook now, obviously I had to create a Facebook account in order to create the Facebook page that I operate out of. And so now I have a Facebook page with friends and people that I care about on, so I feel compelled to watch. And of course, Facebook's got their little tentacles into every single thing, bit of data that's probably on my phone. So one of the things it knows about is that I'm a big Notre Dame fan. I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan, and I'm a big sports fan in general. So I see some news about Notre Dame, and so look, I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna read it. Cool, cool. And then I do what nobody should do: is I read the comments. And there's a gentleman in the comment section saying something incredibly stupid. And I'm like, okay, well, I need to talk now. I need to correct this. This is a correctable action, and not realizing that at the same time there should be a hand behind me, going, nope, no you don't, no you don't, hold back. That hand wasn't there, and my fingers just started typing. And I told him, I don't curse, and I don't curse, and I don't take that road. But at the same time, again, very sarcastic, very very biting commentary to basically say, this is my way of making you feel like what you said is dumb. And some people don't like it. Most people probably don't like it. Other people might think it's incredibly clever. Not the person I'm talking to usually, probably. But in this case, this gentleman or lady, I don't even remember their name, was incensed by my reply to their hot take. And that went on for probably about 20 comments. This is not the Christian thing to do. This is not the Christian thing to do. It is not. We should probably, it would be interesting to have a discussion, now that I'm thinking about it, have a discussion on where our boundaries lie in a debate of ideas that is not related to God. And I'd say not related to God, not because it's a Catholic school's football team that I'm talking about. We're talking about a sports team, and that I'm right and they're wrong. Because really, that was what the problem was. They were wrong, and I came in to correct them. And then they didn't like being corrected. They didn't like being told that they were wrong. I was right. My wife sent me a meme years ago. And y'all probably seen it. It's a stick figure typing away at the computer, and there's a bubble from somebody in the back room going, "Are you coming to bed? Are you going to sleep tonight?" "No, there's somebody wrong on the internet," is what the person says. And that's me. That's me. I can't help it. I can't help myself. But it'd be interesting to have a discussion about, what are our boundaries, and what do we feel like our boundaries should be when we are, let me see this. What should our boundaries be when we're in a setting where we're having a debate of ideas? It'd be interesting. I don't feel like I was doing the right thing. So when I don't feel like I was doing the right thing, I probably wasn't doing the right thing. That was compounded by also. I have joined some groups. One of them is a Christian apologetics group, and that's one where kind of argument and debate is encouraged. But you see things that you get a lot of. Christianity is a wide swath of ideas, especially because we're not all Catholic or Orthodox, Eastern Orthodoxy. We don't fall under this hierarchy now, especially with the Protestant Reformation and everything. We have a wide area of beliefs, and some of them are weird. This is just my personal opinion. Some of them are very weird, and And so when you have a Christian apologetics group, you have Catholics come in, you have Orthodox come in, you have Southern Baptists come in, and you've got Jehovah's Witness come in, and you've got this, that, and the other. And there was a comment. Oh, what was the recent comment that hell is temporary, right? Um, Hell is temporary. God's not throwing people into hell forever in all of eternity. Eventually, they can make their way out. Which, if God wanted to do that, He could. There is absolutely zero scriptural evidence that He will, or that He has even considered it. God can do whatever He wants, and He has got whatever plan that He has for people. But you can't go out saying that this is what's going to happen when you have absolutely no basis other than, oh, it kind of feels like He probably would because God loves us all. Why would He do this? And you're not reconciling the fact that it's not God doing something to us, it's us removing ourselves from Him. And by letting our behavior and our actions and our hearts distance ourselves from Him. I commented I thought it was Unitarian mischief. I don't like Unitarian beliefs. I don't find them to be very enriching or fulfilling. But that is what it is. But there's been some times where I've been on there where somebody says basically if you don't. There was one recently. If you don't believe in the interpretation the way that person thought, that you were basically calling God a liar, which is a heavy accusation to levy on somebody. And this is just my opinion. This is just my opinion. I feel like I'm right, and you may agree, you may disagree, but I agree with my take, and so I feel this compulsion to correct somebody, and I might come in very sensible at first, and very, kind and being a very good conversationalist and saying, oh, here's the information that you need, and I don't think that what you're saying really has any type of real weight to it. Maybe you should consider blah, blah, blah. Sometimes I come straight in hot because I've got that, I'm just in that mode, I'm in that mood, I'm in whatever, where I just want to be like, no, you're dumb, and here's why. I shouldn't do that. It's not uplifting. It's not going to change anybody's mind. Nobody's going to go, man, that guy really acted like an asshole, so I really should listen to what he had to say. And God's probably sitting there going, you've let your pride, you've let your pride, and you've let your mouth put you in a place that your heart shouldn't be. Put me in a place where my heart shouldn't be. This is the way I should say it. And I don't like that. I don't like that about me. It is a flaw that I continually have to work on. It's a flaw that I continually stumble on. And it is a flaw that my wife continually tries to help me overcome. And some people appreciate it. Some people think that it's a refreshing bit of honesty sometimes that I say something that maybe they're thinking. But at the same, and sometimes that feels good, but at other times I feel like, man, I wish I was different about it. We'll see how that goes. It does make conversation much spicier, but it's not always helpful. But we'll see how this goes. We'll see how this goes going forward, and if we can get anybody. We can get more folks on. I've got a couple of people that I've reached out to talk to them about doing things, and if their schedules ever allow it, or if there's a topic that really strikes them, they know that they are welcome to come on and talk about it with me. But again, this is something I struggle with, is keeping my mouth in check, and in a way that where I'm building people up instead of trying to push them over and trip them up. I'm not going to say break people down, because sometimes you need to be broken down, and maybe I've accomplished that somewhere else. But if I don't feel like I'm doing something, and I don't really see any type of I don't see any type of evidence that what I'm saying has helped somebody change their opinion or reassess their life, or reassess their outlook on a certain thing and change their mind. There's really nothing for me to go on other than, well, I got it off my chest. I was thinking about it. I needed to say it, and I didn't want to bottle it up. And they all sound like excuses at the end of the day. So anyway, that's just what I wanted to talk about tonight. And let's rewrap of Joseph, so that maybe you can listen to this before tomorrow night's stream. That is so we're going to continue with Joseph. But to recap what we've discovered with Joseph, Jacob, who we've talked about in the past, he is a flawed man. He would belong, I think, on this show pretty well, and I think that he would give some interesting opinions on or insights in what it's like to be a man who continually stumbles in his personal relationships with people, but doesn't stumble in his personal relationship with God, and he doesn't seem to stumble in his relationship with his faith in God. Very honorable things, but also a very real person. And again, when we go into this story of Jacob and this account where Jacob does not really come across as a guy you'd like to spend any time with, but at the same time, you can't help but be impressed by his faithfulness. So Jacob is blessed or cursed with 4 wives. Probably cursed. I mean, being caught in the middle of that drama, I wouldn't want it. Anyway, so he's got 4 wives. He ends up having 12 sons. 12 sons is very important to remember. So he has 12 sons. One of them is the firstborn of his favorite wife, the woman the only woman he really wanted to marry, that his heart was attached to, was Rachel. He ended up getting tricked into marrying her sister first by his father-in-law. His father-in-law, but he does end up getting a chance. He does end up getting to marry Rachel, but Rachel didn't have many kids. Couldn't have kids at first, and so the other wife's popping out kids left and right. Leah, she's popping out kids left and right. So Rachel gives her servant as a wife. Gives up her servant as a wife to have kids as a surrogate. And so she starts having some kids. And then Leah gets her servant involved, and she starts having kids. And then Rachel starts having kids some more, and Leah has one more kid. But Rachel has her firstborn was Joseph. And that was because of who Rachel was, because she couldn't have kids for so long, and finally does. Joseph is Jacob's favorite, and apparently he makes no bones about it that Joseph is his favorite. She gets pregnant again. She gives birth again, but Rachel dies after giving birth to Benjamin, Joseph's younger brother. And I think that probably made things worse, because now, really the only 2 remnants of his relationship with Rachel and his marriage to Rachel and his life with Rachel are these 2 kids. And again, Joseph's the favorite, and his popularity just goes up from them. His favoritism goes up from there. The golden boy. And his brothers, the older brothers at least, they don't like it. They don't like it at all, and it's difficult to blame them for that. But some of their actions are a little over the top. They throw him down into a well or a cistern, and they plot killing him. But ultimately, the firstborn Reuben comes through and says, "Look, let's not do this. Let's just leave him down there. Kind of scare him a little bit. I'll come back later, and we'll let him out." And Reuben's just trying to keep his brothers from murdering Joseph, whether that's because he doesn't want to hurt his dad's feelings, or he genuinely loves his brother and doesn't want to see him dead, Or, Reuben's just kind of the kind of guy who doesn't want to see anybody get hurt. Whatever the reason, Reuben steps in, keeps them from throttling Joseph, who has really done nothing wrong on his own part. At least there's nothing in the Bible text to say that he has, other than he might have come across bragging, or he may have actually bragged about some dreams he had. Don't know. But Reuben apparently disappears at some point, goes off and goes back to work, helping out his father. And while he's gone, some merchants come by, some slave traders come by, and the other brothers go, okay, yeah, here you go. And they sell Joseph into slavery, just like that. Joseph makes his way down to Egypt and ends up working for a pretty big deal, a pretty big nobleman. He's the captain of the guard for Pharaoh. Egypt's a big empire. Being captain of the guard for a ruler of that importance is a big deal. And Joseph does not let the situation get the better of him. In fact, he makes the best of it and does not waste any time impressing everybody around him. That's the thing that Joseph tends to do, aside from his brothers, who were jealous of him. He tends to do things well in a manner that impresses people and impresses everybody around him. So, captain of the guard, Potiphar, that's his name, he puts him in charge of the household, basically. Potiphar goes off to work doing captain of the guard things, stabbing intruders and whatnot, and comes home and everything's in order. He doesn't have to worry about anything going on in the household, except the other person that Joseph has specifically impressed was Potiphar's wife, who was interested in hooking up with Joseph, and Joseph is immediately, nope, that's a sin against God, and it's a sin against him, and it is a slight against the man who has been good to me, and he doesn't have to. Joseph's a slave. The Potiphar could easily treat him like crap. So he is that still live? It says it's still live. Okay, I'm looking at my Facebook feed, and my face is frozen. Potiphar's wife wants to do it. He says no. She keeps continually trying to seduce him until eventually he says he basically runs off, leaves his jacket and runs off, and she uses that as evidence to accuse him of trying to rape her, and she said that the only reason he did it was because she screamed. And so Potiphar comes home. For some reason, he believes his wife and not the man who's entrusted his household with. And he has Joseph thrown in prison. Joseph gets thrown into prison. Joseph meets two men in there, even closer to the Pharaoh than he is, and that is the baker and the cupbearer, the guy who basically tastes the wine for poison. They have some dreams. Joseph interprets the dreams. One the cupbearer will live and get his old job back. Baker's baked his last pie. Baker's going to die in 3 days. So what happens in 3 days? Cupbearer's back to work, restored to his position, and the baker is he's impaled. It's not a good end for Mr. Baker. And one of Joseph's requests to the cupbearer was, please remember me when you're next to Pharaoh, because I don't want to be in prison for the rest of my days. And the cupbearer is very good about forgetting about Joseph. 2 years passed, I think, and then Pharaoh has some dreams that are very troubling. And he's trying to get all of his magicians and his sorcerers and everybody, all the wise men around him, to tell him what his dream means. Cupbearer realizes, oh crap, I forgot about the guy who told me my life was going to be saved in a dream. He tells Pharaoh. Pharaoh calls Joseph up. Joseph, here's my dream. What's it mean? Joseph says, you've got 7 years of very good, very plentiful harvest, and then you're going to have 7 years of really bad famine. And And when Joseph said that specifically, he gives the credit of that to God. He's just basically God is telling you this, Pharaoh. It's your dream he's talking about. I'm just the one telling you what God is trying to communicate to you. So Pharaoh ends up putting him in charge of the harvest and everything. And Joseph is back on top of the world. It seems he is the right hand man of Pharaoh in one of the most powerful empires in the world at that point. And he's doing great. And he does in fact a better job getting the harvest and the surplus together than he could have than anybody could have imagined, which is good because famine hits after those 7 years. Well, famine is at least region wide, but the scripture says worldwide, so we can go infer from there. Well, who else is out there? Joseph's family. So Joseph's brothers end up coming to Egypt looking for food because they're starving out there. Joseph recognizes them. They don't recognize him. Number one, they don't expect to see somebody in power that they had thrown into slavery. Two, they haven't seen him in a decade. And three, he's dressed up probably very nicely and looking like an Egyptian and not a Hebrew. So he sees them. He plays this prank on them. He calls them spies, throws one of them in prison, tells them to go back and bring their youngest back because they didn't bring Benjamin with them because Jacob is now super attached to Benjamin because he's all he has left of Rachel. He says, go back and bring your other brother here. Prove to me that what you said is true and that you're not spies. So they go back, seemingly try to forget that the one brother, Simeon, is still in jail. They're just kind of eating on their food because Jacob said, nope, you're not taking Benjamin anywhere. You're not taking him back to Egypt. He's the last I got of Rachel. You're not having him. And I can't believe y'all got involved in this mess. Why did he think y'all were spies? He don't know. Joseph's trolling them hard. So, but eventually they run out of food. They got to go back to Egypt. So Jacob just resignedly lets Benjamin go. Judah says that he's going to look out for him and make sure he brings him back. So they all go up there, and Joseph invites them in, and they have this big banquet and everything. He sees his brothers, and they bring Simeon out of jail. But he's not done with this prank. So he puts a cup, a very expensive cup, in Benjamin's sack when they're going to be taking back to their father, and he lets them get out of the city, and then sends his messenger out there to or his adjutant or whatever to go out there and catch them. And he brings them back, and he's like, and they thought they were so sure that it wasn't them that they said, look, you can put one guy to death, and you can keep us all as slaves if one of us took him. Well, they find it in Benjamin's sack because that's where Joseph had it put, and so they haul them all back to Egypt, to the city, and Joseph gets them all together, and Judah stands up because Judah's had some problems with his own. Judah stands up and says, "No, take me instead. Take me instead as a slave, but let my youngest son, my youngest brother back because my dad will die if he doesn't come back." Basically, which might very well be true. At that point, Joseph loses it. He can't keep up the facade anymore. He's done enough anyway. Can't keep up the facade anymore, so he reveals himself to that. There's a great reunion, and then he sends them on their way to go send great many things to Jacob. Pharaoh finds out about this. He's pleased because Joseph's done such a great job. So he tells Joseph to say, get your dad, get your brothers, get all the family, all this big old God family, bring them back to Egypt. I'm going to put you up in the nicest estates, and I'm just going to give you this land to work, and you will be blessed because you've blessed us. This is back when we loved the Egyptians. In the near future, we're not going to be so happy with the Egyptians, but we'll get there when we get there. In the meantime, this is where we left off. So we're going to find out what happens at this point going forward with Joseph and what the significance of what is going on with Joseph, um, with the rest of the Hebrew faith, which eventually becomes Israel, which eventually becomes the Jewish faith, and from there we get Christianity. But there it is. And it's Joseph, who is just an awesome dude, 100%. I'm a big believer that Joseph was a man that was very righteous, without fault in God's eyes. There's really no accounts where he seems to go astray, which is, and he's in a fair amount of his account is very well told, with where there are many others in the Bible whose accounts are not as detailed or long, and they mess up big time, starting with Adam. But with that said, again, thank you all for watching this stream. I appreciate it. I love doing it. I want to continue to do it in different facets, and I want to just bring content that you all enjoy, and hopefully I can bring more viewers in, and so that we can get some actual viewer interaction and some viewer opinion, fan interaction, whatever. Just get that following together. But thank you for watching, doing what you do. If you want to hear more, hit like my page on Facebook, like the channel on YouTube, hit the notification button, and follow me from there. Leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Tell me how I'm doing. Tell me how much you disagree and how full of crap I am. Don't care. Give me some feedback. Tell me what you think. And I'd love to interact with you in that way. In the meantime, you guys stay safe.